Burnout versus depression. How do you tell the difference? That's what I'm talking about today. Hello, my dear guys. I am Kate, psychologist. Burnout is usually thought of as something that happens professionally and caused by work stress, but the way it makes you feel can feel very similar to depression. Let's look at the two side by side. Here are the 9 symptoms of depression. It takes 5 of them to be considered as having a major depressive episode. So, as you can see, with depression, you have both mental and physical changes. It's more than just thinking, I hate my life, I hate myself. But it includes physical changes in the way your body functions, like with your appetite, your sleep, and your energy level. With burnout, you get emotional exhaustion in response to a prolonged stress. You get depersonalization or cynicism as a negative response to your job and others around you. Depersonalization is the experience of feeling detached from yourself. It can seem like you're just observing yourself in the world and you're not really inside of yourself. For the person who's burned out, you can feel like you're just going through the motions every day and you're not really living it. Now, a person who's depressed can have depersonalization experiences, but there's so much else going on that the depersonalization is not a prominent feature. But with burnout, it's a prominent feature and it's usually related to the stress in your work or the demands of your work or even the demands of your home life. How to tell the difference? It's like you're just chatting alone, turning out work and doing all the things everyone wants you to do, but you're just not getting anything out of it. What's the point? One of the ways to tell the difference between depression and burnout is that with depression, you usually have trouble getting pleasure from any of the things that normally made you feel good before. And this is in any setting, so a person in a deep depression can be flown to an exotic island and with their own lounge chair, and that person can sit there and still feel miserable. With burnout, the sense of exhaustion, stress and dissatisfaction is closely connected to the stress, so you can take that person and say, hey, we've made arrangements for someone to take over all of your work and we're gonna fly you off to Bora Bora for a week, and when you get back you will have a clean slate. Now you might say, well, who wouldn't love that? Well, with a depressed person, none of that stuff matters. The darkness is still in your head. But the burnout person can go on that kind of trip, sit in the lounge chair and be completely rejuvenated and relaxed. In fact, often people who are in the early stages of burnout can have a complete relief of their symptoms on the weekends, if they're not working, of course. Now I mention the early stages of burnout. People who are burnout can become depressed. It's not as though you can only have one or the other, but it can start as burnout and progress to depression, especially if you're someone who's previously been depressed in the past. Depression doesn't have to be the result of something bad happening. No. It can just be its own thing without any negative situation causing it. Another way to tell the difference between depression and burnout is that with depression you can have feelings of self-loathing and worthlessness that are pretty much generalized. But with burnout, your self-esteem is usually preserved, but if you do have any feelings of worthlessness, it's usually only connected to your value and in your work, and it's not to your overall value. Why it is so important? If a person's burned out but not depressed, they don't need to be treated with antidepressant medication. The way to address the burnout is to address the factors that led to the burnout. So that leads to the question of why do people get burned out in the first place? It's not just a matter of having a lot of work to do or being in a stressful environment. People can hold up well under great amounts of stress if they're feeling personal satisfaction from their work. The way to reduce burnout is to change the individual or to change the environment. You don't have a lot of control over your environment unless, of course, you're self-employed. So then the focus becomes learning the different ways to cope with the work setting. Another problem, if you're always allowing yourself to be instantly available, you will never give your mind a chance to unwind, and an overactive mind leads to stress, anxiety, and burnout. Some other self-help interventions would be things like prioritizing your sleep and making sure you get 7 to 9 hours. Taking time to exercise also helps relieve stress and improve your mood. Taking 10 minutes in the middle of the day to decompress with meditation can go a long way in recharging and rebooting your mental energy. Now, all these things are ways to change you, but sometimes changing you isn't the final solution. You may need to take a hard look at whether or not your job is really a good fit for you. Can you imagine this level of work for another 5, 10 or 15 years? You may say, well, I have to work. Of course, most people have to work. Maybe the change, though, is a matter of changing your work environment or finding a different company that does similar work. Maybe it's similar work but in a different industry, and I know these aren't easy answers, but burnout and depression have negative consequences to your body. And if they persist all a long time, it's like trying to push a square peg into a round hole. If you push hard and long enough, you may get the square to go through the hole, but you will lose the edges of the square and it will be negatively changed when it comes out on the other side. If you notice that you're feeling more generally hopeless and taking a break from work doesn't help, then talk to your doctor. You could start with your primary care doctor, or you could write me on the Facebook, link below, to book our private consultation. I'm here to help you live your life happily and balanced. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, about this, or share with me your experience. I would love to read your comments, guys. Thank you so much for your attention and your time, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.